Welcome in the latest episode of that SEC podcast. I'm your host, Michael Braden. I go by SEC Mike on Twitter, and I'm joined as always by my cousin Shane, who goes by Big Orange Balls on Twitter. What are you up to, you big Tennessee homer?
Hey, buddy, what's going on?
Oh, man, I don't know. Sounds like a lot going on your end. How you doing over there, brother?
Oh, Mike, all this National Signing Day material and transfer portal. Yeah, I got to be honest with you, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm a little bummed. I'm a little peeved here.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to grind my gear. I'm not going quite there yet, but it's kind of lost its luster, man. Am I wrong, or am I the only one that's catching this? I mean, when you have two National Signing Days, two transfer portal windows open,
right?
It's like it kind of takes a little bit. This used to be almost like a holiday to me. I would call in just so that I could keep up with the Twitters. This is when your team was. You know what? Our season didn't go right, but that's all right. It's going to bounce back, because we got, a hell of a recruiting class. We may steal somebody here. I've watched videos of these high school podiums and some of the worst moments when they're throwing a Tennessee hat across the auditorium. It seems like it's pulled away a little bit, and it doesn't matter as much. Am I wrong? And then even then, you get the kids 2 years from now. Are they even going to be on your roster? Because you got the portal. So
no, I think you're 100% right, Shane. And think about this. I heard this week as well. When we expand the college football playoff, which is coming in 2 seasons, this week will be playoff games. So we're throwing that on top of this burning fire of all this stuff. You've mentioned the portal, recruiting, coaching changes, assistant changes, NIL. I mean, it's just it's too much to keep up with, and it comes here in the middle of preparing for bowl games. It has lost a ton of its luster, Shane, and I thought someone else put this out there, Shane. Alabama, I mean, they are essentially the class of college football. I realize Georgia fans, they'll take issue with that. I'm not saying they're better than Georgia at this point in time, but when you think of Alabama, you think of the gold standard in the last couple of years.
Right.
40% of their signees the last 2 seasons no longer with the program. And that's freaking Alabama, who they more or less gets to cherry pick who they want, again, with the exception of, Georgia. They're battling Georgia and LSU and all these schools. But when the best of the best can't keep 40% of their roster happy, I mean, this day, it's exciting, but it's like a tenth of as exciting as it used to be, at least for me.
Right. I think you're onto something, and you see it like, was there a kid that didn't pick your school, and you're like, oh man, that was close, but when does that next portal date open up? One good NIL contract, and he's down here. So it's just it is different, and you hear a theme. Oh God, do you hear a theme today, boys and girls? I'm going to tell you right now, there's not a bad recruiting class today. There's not a bad recruit. Everyone's family's great. Their house is clean. The food is wonderful. It was just, oh my God, some of these would just drag on. But we did find some nuggets, and Mike did a deeper dive than I did. So thank God he found some good stuff in there. Because I found I was listening to Billy Napier, and nothing against him. Calm down, Florida fans. I'm not going to say anything mean. I just think your coach talks a little slower than he should. And I found that I could speed up my YouTube videos. And oh my gosh, so now Florida becomes a little bit more tolerable. And it's funny because it sounds like a normal conversation when Billy's talking, but then you can't understand the reporter's question because it comes out so quick. But anyway, it was fun. It is good seeing these kids find a home because it does close some of the doors behind them, and now they can focus on what they're weakest at, and that's when it really gets interesting with this portal. After these bowl games, I expect more names to come in there. Here in a minute, we'll talk about Lane Kiffin.
Yep.
That was his message is like, hey man, we're not done yet. This is just one of 4 opportunities for us.
Right, and don't forget, Shane, at the tail end of the episode, we've actually got a bowl game here. Again, throw that on top of all this. The Gasparilla Bowl between Missouri and Wake Forest. So we'll make those predictions, but you know, the most of this show is going to be dedicated to the early signing period because we can hit on all 14 teams here, Shane.
Mm-hmm.
Let's run down the class rankings real quick, just 1 through 14, and then we'll take a deeper dive on a lot of these. But it starts with Alabama, Shane, number 1 class, not only in the country, but of course in the SEC. So Nick Saban, remember it was just a couple months ago, he was mad at A&M for, my God, we finished second. This has got to change. We can't be doing this. Well, they took care of business this year. They're number 1. No stunner to see Nick Saban's Alabama number 1 in the rankings, right?
Yeah, it's like the NIL, you know, and I was like, well, it's important these kids get, you know, get the recognition and the money they deserve. So, yeah, when the stars line up and they start going your way, it is a different tune. But Alabama absolutely loaded here. Fantastic class. I think Nick Saban, he's gearing up for Revenge 2.0, you know?
Oh, yeah. So number 2, again, not just in the SEC, but in the country, Shane, them Georgia Bulldogs. So no need to feel bad. I mean, my goodness, you finished number 2 in recruiting. You've got every tool you need to keep winning SEC championships, to keep winning national championships. Georgia, number 2 in the country. Strong class here from Kirby Smart. And that's where we're at with Kirby, Shane, where if we finish number 2, we're a little disappointed there in Athens. You know what I mean?
little disappointed. I mean, we're at that level, you know, that the trophy case is already starting to fill up. Now it's just the pats on the backs that they want, and a number 1 recruiting class that says something. But, you know, if you want to listen to Coach speak, jump on there and listen to Kirby talk for a little bit. He'll remind you just how good Georgia recruiting's been. And there's no upset. I don't think there's any upset folks down there in Athens right now as they get ready to play for a college football playoff.
No, definitely not. Number 3 in the SEC, Shane, LSU, right now ranked number 6 in the country. Remember when Brian Kelly got down there, he's missed out on Arch Manning. He missed out on another Louisiana quarterback, Eli Holstein. He's now signed with Alabama. People are saying, what the hell? Brian Kelly's got no connections to Louisiana, no connections to the South. This is a damn dumpster fire. He'll never sign anybody. He was dancing with the guy, and the guy turned around and I went to Alabama. Well, give him a damn year, and he's got the number 6 class in the country. I think it worked out for old Brian Kelly and LSU.
And continued to work out. One of the things he talks about is it takes multiple years to establish some of these relationships, and unfortunately he hasn't had that opportunity. So if you can, again, he's impressing me. First year SEC championship, you know, first year top 10 recruiting class. I think that's pivotal, man.
Yeah.
What happens when you have more time to establish relationships with coaching and look at some of these sophomore juniors coming up, you know? So I think this is I think if you're a Tiger fan, you're on cloud 9 again.
Now number 4 in the SEC, them Tennessee Vols, just for you, brother. Number 10 in the country. Again, this is where you want to be if you're building this program. Heck, Shane, I mean, this is only 2 years into the Josh Heupel era. Now you got a top 10 recruiting class.
Yeah.
You got 10 wins on the field. I mean, this is the makings of making Tennessee a consistent threat in the SEC East.
It's your last chance to get on the wagon, boys and girls. I'm giving you one last shot here. Heupel's building something up there in Knoxville. So, no, we are on cloud 9 here as well. A couple of late pickups that we weren't sure we were going to get. We ended up getting those. More importantly, protecting our borders, and I think that says a lot with what Heupel and his staff are doing here. And like you said, the ceiling is high here in Knoxville.
Yep. Number 5 in the SEC, Shane, them Florida Gators. Number 12 in the country. Hell of a class here for Billy Napier. They did miss out on a 5-star or two, but damn near every signee in this class is a 4-star, Shane. And this is a roster that needs help all across the board. This is the makings of turning things around there in Gainesville.
It really is. And, you know, the season hasn't quite ended like they wanted to. I mean, obviously, anybody that says different, they're lying. But they were able to keep that momentum up during recruiting, and that's the key. Billy hit this when he first got the job down there. They are gutting this place out, and they're building from the ground up. That takes time, time that we typically don't have the luxury to have here in the SEC, but you do that with strong recruiting classes, and that's what the Gators have here.
Yeah. Number 6.
And he's happy. I joked earlier in the video, this is maybe the happiest I've seen Billy. Coming off the tail end of that season, the man is tickled pink. So I think if you're a Florida fan, you're excited too.
Yeah. Well, speaking of excited, Shane, Texas A&M, Jimbo Fisher, number 6 in the SEC, number 14 in the country. So a couple flips. We'll get more into that in a moment here. But you got one of the top running backs in the country with Devon Achane off to the NFL. Maybe you're getting his replacement here. Mm-hmm. Solid class, not nearly as good as last season. But, of course, a lot of those guys have already left. So maybe they're kind of, you know, I don't want to call those guys out. Well, certainly some of those guys certainly were an issue. There was multiple suspensions and questionable off-the-field decisions. Hell, Shane, I'd rather have this type of class if all these guys are committed and don't have those issues and stay for multiple years than I would this historic number 1 class that multiple guys are out the door before they ever make an impact.
And I think you can make that argument with any team. I mean, one of the first things you talked about was Alabama losing 40% of their class. If you could keep 90% of a 6th best class, SEC class, 14th in the country, I think you're tickled pink because you're probably netting out a number 1 class or number 2 class. So I think this is important. They got a few key pieces that they really needed. I felt like Jimbo, you know, he had some comments, and we'll probably get to him here in a minute.
Yep.
But I think all in all, when you're looking at with what the season turned out, all they've lost in this transfer portal, I think this is a win for the Aggies.
Mm-hmm. Now, number 7, Shane, fantastic close here. South Carolina Gamecocks, number 16 in the country. This is one of the best recruiting classes in recent history, and it's just the success on the field, multiple seasons in a row, overachieving. It's translating into on the recruiting trail, the relationships Shane Beamer and his staff have made, paying off huge dividends. And again, this is just a great sign that the future is brighter than ever there in Columbia.
Momentum, momentum, momentum. That's the 3 words they should have down there in Gamecock country, because that's what they've done on the field. That's what they're doing in the recruiting trail. Maybe even the portal. I know they've got a few good names in there, and there's a few more that they'd like to land maybe in this before this thing's over. But they just keep this momentum. Year 2, this is what you're expecting. This is where we expected Beamer and company to make noise. They've already done that. They've already surpassed that, and now this is just filling in that roster and creating that competitive depth. Something that's caught them in a few games this season that may help them next year.
Now, how about this, Shane? Ooh, this may be the biggest surprise, biggest winner of the early signing period in the SEC. Auburn, number 8, number 19 in the country, an incredible close, many flips. We'll get to each of those in just a minute. But, hey, criticize Hugh all you want, and I've done it. He's doing a marvelous job early there on the Plains.
Tough, man. Tough. These this is the National Signing Day. This is, I mean, there's going to be some coming out on the later ones, but this is the one that you want to seal the deal, and you're getting a lot of big names off the board. So Hugh came in with his back against the wall, able to pull around a nice, I think a nice class given the circumstances, but he ain't over. Expect the portal will be busy. This next signing day will be busy. Hugh, he won't be home, man. He is on the road. He is not coming home until the rooster's laid, you know?
Yep. All right, how about next, Shane? Again, they suffered some defections, but this is one of the highest rated classes they've had in years and years and years. Number 9, Arkansas Razorbacks. Number 21 in the country. The sky is not falling despite a defection or two. But it's interesting. I mean, it could be a little bit better of a class, but I think if you're a program like Arkansas, you're happy about the ones you got. You just completely erase it from your memory, the ones you didn't, and the ones you didn't, you go out and you attack via the transfer portal, which is exactly what Sam Pittman says they're going to do.
And I butchered that saying. When I said it, I was like, that does not sound right. Chickens have to come home to roost, okay? So that's what I meant. So erase, I can hear them now. They are about to tweet me. Shane, you dumbass. You don't know any of your, what is that, a metaphor? Similes? I don't know. I was bad in English. It was one of those. So who are we talking about? Arkansas?
Arkansas, number 9 in the SEC.
I'm not comparing them, but obviously different circumstances. But losing your coordinator, that was a big one, and and it's right here in the middle of this. You're going to hear Sam talk about it. I think this was a salvage class, but I do think he got a lot of pieces he was looking for. So seemed pretty happy with it. I've seen a lot of Razorback fans happy with it. We still that portal. Buddy, if you talk about filling in some spots, that's what Arkansas has got to focus on right now.
Right. And talk about salvaging a class, Shane. Number 10, Mississippi State, number 24 in the country. I mean, my God, the tragedy they have suffered the last week or so, yet they've got a top 25 recruiting class, and they actually picked up their biggest signee of all on signing day, Isaac Smith. We'll get to him here in a minute, but just a masterful job here. Zach Arnett, new on the job, first week on the job, and he's doing a heck of a job keeping this thing together. Yeah,
that was very, very tough circumstances, obviously, and what they were able to get out of it kind of surprised me. I'm not going to lie, Mike. This is me. If I was ranking the biggest surprise on National Signing Days, it's Mississippi State. So kudos to Zach and company, never giving up, and not giving up on the players that were on that roster because, buddy, they were coming after them.
Right. Number 11, Missouri. Number 32 in the country. Not your best class if you're Eli Drakewitz, but again, they're going to be attacking this portal too. I think this is a common theme, Shane, with these teams at the bottom. I think what you're seeing, Shane, is you're sitting here, if you're a Missouri, if you're a Kentucky, if you're an Ole Miss, you say, well, what's going to help us more? A high schooler that we just don't know anything about, or a productive transfer? And I think these are certainly the programs that are focused more on the transfer portal, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the recipe. Look what Ole Miss did. Look what LSU did. You don't necessarily have to have a great recruiting class to win games.
Right.
Sometimes it helps to have a 21-year-old as opposed to a 19-year-old, or just age itself. These kids got more meat on them. So I think like you said, common theme. Everybody, the portal is not closed down. All right, this thing is just about to gear up, I think, and who knows? Some may hit the portal just because of National Signing Day. These kids, they're like, okay, you want that kid? Well, I'm out. Even though he's not going to be the starter. It's crazy times we live in. So expect Eli and company to hit the portal hard. That's for sure.
Right, and number 12. The Kentucky Wildcats, number 33 in the country. Again, you may be looking at that and say, well, not the best class we've signed, and that's certainly true. But then you flip it, Shane. You say, well, my God, you got the number 1 portal quarterback.
Yeah.
Arguably the number 1 portal running back. You're shoring up your offensive line with multiple players there. Kentucky will take that over a couple 4 stars that have never played in college football. You know what?
Well, and that's what they're selling now. Now that you've got that committed to your team, you can hit out, in this next round of signing, you can say, look what we have. Look what we're building around. You're the last piece we need. This is these salesmen, that's what these coaches are right now. They're salesmen, and they can look and say, look what we've got committed now.
Yep.
You can make it better. So I'm not sleeping on Kentucky here.
And then 13, Shane, Ole Miss, number 36 in the country. Again, missed out on a couple. They're probably the biggest, I don't want to call them losers, but they're the most disappointed. They struck out on a number of guys here right as the signing period arrived. But again, Lane ain't sweating at all, Shane, because he is the portal king. He will attack it. And I thought it was fascinating. He says, last season we got a bunch of starters in here. We're going to get a bunch of backups this year in the transfer portal.
Hey, man, whatever it takes to build up that depth, man. And he had the hoodie on. I think he had the Flipmas. So,
yep.
Who knows? He's very adamant. We are not done in Oxford. Calm down. Yeah, it's kind of. I think that was the theme. He wanted to come out and multiple times said, "Hey, we've got some things working. Don't panic now."
So that means, of course, Vanderbilt, number 14, no surprise, number 50 class in the country. But again, it's a lot 50. Better than they have been in. I think last season's class may have been right around there as well. And this staff, Shane, and this recruiting staff has shown they can identify talent better than most. Get these guys, and a lot of these guys, like, we weren't sitting here saying, "Oh, they got AJ Swan last year. That's great."
Right.
Didn't even know who the hell he was. Now get him on the field. He looks like one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC. Jaden McGowan, one of the best freshman receivers in the SEC. On and on and on. They know how to identify and develop talent down there at Vanderbilt. This is another good sign that they're turning the corner there in Nashville.
Hell, you got Barrett down there too. I mean, these guys can. I think you hit the nail on the head. It's identifying raw talent, people that are flying under the radar that no one else is expecting, but becomes hot portal names. I mean, think about it. Vanderbilt had a couple hit the portal; they became a hot commodity. So that's what they're developing down there. And top 50 class, I think that's important, man. Top 50 in the country. That's important for what they're building in Vanderbilt, and it's just got to keep grinding, keep growing.
Right. Now, let's take a little deeper dive on some of these classes here. Shane, Alabama, again, 6.
Wait, before you do deep dive, I am curious. Immediate thoughts. Who was your biggest winner today, Mike?
I got 5 of them.
You got to pick one. You got to pick one like, oh, man, this one stands out to me. I'm going to tell you. I'm going to say biggest winner, biggest loser, biggest surprise. How about that?
Biggest winner, Auburn, I think.
Okay.
Under Hugh Freeze. Yeah. I didn't see, I knew Hugh Freeze. We all know the resume. He's going to do a much better job than Brian Harsin, but took over a class that was below Vanderbilt's, and now we're right in the middle of the SEC. Just a terrific job there.
Yeah. Biggest loser.
Portal King Lane Kiffin. And he's out here tweeting people. I've come to find out. Hey, I love it. I love every, troll tweet he's got. But you could tell, man, he's doing some of these because I think he's like emotionally hurt. You know what I mean? So he's like, it's my revenge. I'm going to tweet you. They lost I'll throw it up here on the screen. They lost a lineman to Maryland. He's out here tweeting one of their assistants celebrating going to a bowl game. That's butthurt. That's what that is,
No, that is. And he's not good on the receiving end of those, Not good. Sorry, I don't know how long I wasn't recording, Mike, so this may be a short video I'm sending you. I just looked up and I was like, oh, there's not a red dot there. All right, man, biggest surprise today. And it could be good or bad. Just if you're talking a team, who stood out to you as a surprise?
I think you kind of already hit on it, Shane. Mississippi State, keeping the class together. I mean, I just think that's an outstanding job by Zach Arnett and company. Yeah.
Okay. I'd say almost identical to what I went with. I think you're right with Auburn. I think you're right with Mississippi State here, and I want to believe in Lane, so I'm gonna let him hold off here. But as for today, I'm gonna have to say Lane Kiffin is the loser right now.
Right. And, the dangers.
And I'm wearing his colors. You can't tell, but I even wore the Ole Miss colors for him today.
Hey, the portal strategy worked like a charm.
Yeah.
But the danger of it, Shane, I mean, if they swing and they miss on a couple kids, their roster could be decimated one year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a gamble, but they clearly know what they're doing down there.
Are you worried about that? Before we get in, I'm sorry, I know I keep going on. Like, obviously, what he was able to put together last year was monumental. I mean, coming off Matt Corral, we didn't think they had a shot in hell, and for the longest time, top 5 team in the country, and did most of that work through the portal. But other teams, it feels like, are catching on a little bit. And they're you just talked about Kentucky getting the best quarterback, and arguably I think one of the best running backs out of the portal is, that's a move I would expect Lane Kiffin to make, not Kentucky. But now I'm starting to see some of these other teams, really getting behind this NIL collective stuff and more involved. Does that worry you with the approach that Lane Kiffin's used to here the last couple of seasons?
Yeah, absolutely, Shane. And I mean, I don't think it's going to be a stunning or hot take or anything, but I think he was thinking, I'm going to be at Auburn next year.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
right.
Why throw, not to say that they got some awful recruiting class, but it ain't SEC championship quality. You know what I mean? So
right.
I wonder how much of that was in the back of his mind, and I don't know. I mean, you think all the success they'd have, you think they'd do a little bit better job. I have heard, I've heard he's not too interested in recruiting, yet then you see these photos where it's pouring down rain. He's the only one in the stands watching Judkins in a playoff high school game, and they land him. You know what I mean? So
right.
He knows the players he's got to get. I don't think he lives and breathes it like Nick Saban, Kirby Smart, and on and on and on. These Coach O type guys. You know what I mean?
I got you. I was just getting your thoughts there, Mike. Sorry, I get you off track. Not used to me making the show notes, are you? So I'm going to sit back here in the passenger seat and let you get back to going here, Mike. Sorry.
Yeah. So Alabama. Let's go class by class here. Just a little bit more info. Shane, more 5-stars, I believe, than the rest of the SEC combined, with 6 5-stars. And how about it, Shane? I mean, they're getting guys from Georgia, Florida, Iowa, and top prospects from, of course, Alabama. 2 they got on signing day, James Smith and Q Rushaw. Some great defenders there from Carver High School. They've got Caleb Downs as their best prospect, Shane. He's from Georgia, number 1 safety. That's got to hurt Kirby there. Again, I'm not crying for Kirby. They got number 2 class here. But go into Florida, get the number 1 player out of Florida. They've been hurting at receiver, right? They got the number 1 junior college prospect. He's a receiver, Malik Benson. He could come in there. We don't know what they exactly got at quarterback with Bryce Young going on. We know they got talent, but it's inexperience. Yeah. They're bringing in 2 4-star quarterbacks, so retooling that room as well. And kind of underrated, defensive back Tony Mitchell. He had been committed for a while, but there was threats he would flip to A&M. They kept him in the boat. So massive, massive winners here on the National Signing Day, early signing period, whatever the hell you want to call it. Alabama was the kings of it yet again.
Absolute machine, man. Absolute. They have one off year, and they come out with a number 1 recruiting class. It's just
right?
Like, yeah. What did we mess up on? Okay, let's fix that by getting the best at that position. So this was a pick choose thing, and I'd love to see some of the NIL contracts that come off this, because it always feels like Bama's like 1 season behind. Not like, I'm not saying that as a mean thing, but like their offense, when they finally decided to change it, it was a season later, and then all of a sudden they become the best. The NIL, we didn't much care for it. Now all of a sudden we're going to become the best at it. It's almost like they take a season to evaluate how this is going to work and impact college football, and then they come out and dominate in that area. So huge win for the Tide here.
Well, speaking of NIL, Shane, that is one of the things Saban says, that's helped this class. He's open to it now. And I think why Saban's the greatest, He says he loves every single process, every single bit of the recruiting process. Let's kick it over to Nick Saban.
NIL had about the same impact on this recruiting cycle as it did the last recruiting cycle, or is NIL just something that ever evolves and is always changing its stripes?
You know, we're not allowed to be involved in NLI, at least from my perspective. And, you know, I do think that it did have an impact on recruiting with some players. And I don't know how you make comments about things that really is kind of a crazy, you know, a little bit of a crazy situation right now, and there's not really a sensible response to it. So I don't know how to really respond to it other than the fact that, you know, we do a great job of trying to sell what we can do to create value for players and what they can create for themselves here, because our players have done a really good job of creating value for themselves in name, image, and likeness by what they do after they get here.
I know it takes a lot to build a league program year in and year out. Where does the recruiting process from, you know, first scouting a player to when they eventually commit, what do you enjoy most about that process?
I like it all. I watch every player that we recruit. I make an evaluation. We come to an evaluation and agreement as a staff. And then I love the relationship building process. I love when guys visit here and you get to visit with them and develop relationships with them, see what's important to them in recruiting, and also the recruiting process when you go out on the road, meet their high school coaches and their families, and when their families come here and visit. So there's nothing about the recruiting process that I don't really enjoy. I enjoy it all.
Now, speaking of NIL, Shane, I did got to bring this up because Alabama's #1, kings of the world right now, at least mythical national champion of recruiting. But they may have missed on their top prospect here, Shane. I said, how's that possible? I got #1 class, got all these 5 stars. Old Mac Brown, the way he tells it, and others tell it, Drake May, $5 million offer to jump in the portal and switch schools. Now you got guys like Shannon Terry, you know, On3, 24/7 Sports Rivals. He's basically started the internet, and he's saying that I don't believe it's $5 million. There's no player that's going for $5 million, and he's now in this NIL world. So the truth is probably somewhere in the middle, Shane.
Yeah.
But the fact that, and this is clearly who they're talking about. They're talking about Alabama offering this millions and millions of dollars for a player. And I'm sure they're not breaking rules. I'm sure Nick Saban's not actually doing it. I'm sure there's middlemen so they can hide behind it and say they didn't do nothing. But Alabama, to me, this says they realize, Shane, as would anybody, that they are a quarterback away from winning a national championship next season. Now, the fact that this, to me, tells me they don't have confidence in the quarterbacks they have right now to get there. Do you think I'm making too many assumptions here? What's your thoughts on all this? And also, I think it's fair to say, Shane, that you know, it's been out there. We say it every year.
Yeah.
Nick Saban's at the end of the line here. What better way than to guarantee you're probably going to win a national championship or at least be in the mix than making these outrageous offers to these quarterbacks? You know, because he's sure as hell he's not going to go out with a 10-2 season. He ain't going out till he's won a national championship again. You know what?
Absolutely, man. I mean, and to think that Saban's the only one that has attempted to sway this kid. You know, we've been hearing he's been dancing around the portal idea for a long time.
Right.
So you mean to tell me that Nick Saban didn't sit out there in a pontoon at Lake Burton and talk to his staff and say, I don't give a shit how much money it costs, get this kid on the campus, because he wants to win now. And I don't think Saban has. I'm not saying I hate the time thing, because Saban may coach down there for 15 years,
right.
But you know, he wants to win now. And the problems a lot of times when you have one of these young quarterbacks is you dance around a couple of ball games and you find yourself in another one possession loss and sitting outside of a college football playoff. Saban doesn't want that. You get a proven track record guy in to make it happen. So yeah, you better damn believe he attempted this. But again, I wasn't in the loop. You know, he sure the hell didn't text me before he had this conversation, and you know, I'm not gonna say that's exactly what happened because again, he may not have. But usually where there's smoke, there's fire, Mike, and I think Saban's in the now world, and not that SEC's far from it. Mm-hmm. Usually it takes a season or two, but you know, Alabama's got to win now. They got to win national championship now. They got to win the best quarterback now, the best recruiting class now, and that's the mentality, and that's just the system that Saban built down there in Tuscaloosa. So I expect nothing different than immediate impact.
Transitioning to Georgia, Shane, 21 of 24 signees rated as 4 or 5-star prospects, and one of the three that is not in it. At least a 4 or 5-star prospect, is the nation's #1 kicker. So it's not like, I mean, basically they've checked every single box here that they needed to check. They got one of the #2 edge defender in the country, #3 corner in the country. The only issue I think you got, if you're Georgia, with this class, Shane, and it's a minor one. Again, we're picking apart the #2 signing class in the country. They only landed 2 of the top 10 in-state prospects.
Well, I mean, how worried are you about that in-state? I mean, Georgia is a place that Kirby's never really whiffed on. Mm-hmm. I don't think that I think this is more of a one-off than anything. But I mean, are you worried? I mean, geez, we're talking possibly back-to-back national champs, SEC champs. #2 recruiting class, like you said, we're is there anything to worry about in-state recruiting here? Because you cannot lose, obviously, Georgia.
No, I'm not worried, but again, I just like to see him. I'd like to see him do a little bit better because, especially when a lot of these guys are going to Alabama, so it's like, I mean, that's the one place you don't want to lose them to. Now you could flip it and say, well, hell. They signed the #1 cornerback out of Alabama. Georgia did. So, I mean, they were kind of stabbing each other in the side, so to speak. But, yeah, I don't know. If I'm a Georgia fan, I hate to see that.
Yeah. Well, if I'm a Georgia fan, I'm like, well, we didn't really need him anyway. We're loaded. That's my favorite line. He wasn't going to get to play here anyway, you know?
But what I was going to say also, Shane, what does not necessarily factor into this, but it is an addition. They just landed a commitment, Shane, from probably the best receiver prospect out of the SEC, Mississippi State. Ra Thomas commits to Georgia. Speculation that Dominique Lovett could also be joining him. So, man, they may have turned over this receiver room overnight with some star SEC players. You know what?
Absolutely, man. Those would be 2 big gets right there. Immediate impact. So I like that.
Right, and then it's kind of sad note, Shane, I don't know the backstory, but tight end Arik Gilbert, he has left the program. He is in the portal. It's got all the talent in the world, it's just never really put it together. But
SEC teams he got left.
He's going to be at Tennessee next, you know what?
Come on, man. You've been avoiding this long enough. You come up here and play.
But I just thought this was hilarious, Shane. Let's kick it over to Kirby real quick. He's asked about NIL, the state of college football and recruiting, and he just completely shuts that down immediately. And he was also asked about not signing a quarterback in this class. You got to remember, they were basically the runner-up in the Arch Manning sweepstakes. They put all their chips on Arch. And the fact they didn't get one, Shane, they're sitting here and saying, well, damn. We only got 3 5-star quarterbacks left on a roster. So, again, I don't feel too bad for Georgia not getting a quarterback this cycle.
Yeah, Kirby, we saw reports. We saw Coach Narduzzi and Mac Brown talking about $5 million offers for quarterbacks at North Carolina. We're reading, emoji attacks from Matt Rule on Lanning. I mean, how crazy is it out there? And And how much of an advantage do you have with the stability you have in your program? What could you tell us about the landscape right now?
No clue, man. I'm working on Ohio State 24/7.
Kirby, I kind of wanted to wait to the end here, but I want to ask about Ladd and Warren, if they had been able to get back to practice and been able to do anything for you.
Yeah, I'm focused on these guys today, to be honest with you, these signees. So no update.
You guys didn't sign a quarterback in this class. Did that make recruiting guys any different or harder because there wasn't sort of this quarterback leader figure in there? And what kind of challenges going forward does not having a quarterback signing in this class possibly present to you guys?
I think it's irrelevant in today's day and age. The portal's full of them. There's going to be multiple guys in every year. You want to do the best job you can to get the best quarterback you can. When you have 3 quarterbacks, sometimes you don't have any, and when you have 1 quarterback, that's when you have a quarterback. And we're very pleased with what we have in our quarterback room. We think we got 3 quarterbacks that are going to be really good. So the concern wasn't about a quarterback, and none of the skill players made it about that. Because they know what we've signed the last really 3 or 4 years. They know what we have the potential to sign in 24. So it's one of those deals that the quarterback position kind of sells it based on who your offensive coordinator is and how your offense does, and we've excelled in that.
Yeah, that's what the portal's for, That's like he made it sound like it was a grocery store. Just go in there and grab me a quarterback if I need it.
All right, Shay, next on the docket, LSU, real quick, unrelated to the signing, but this was announced on Thursday. Jaden Daniels back for another season.
Huge.
You just nailed it. It's big, huge for them LSU Tigers, Shane. They may have the best returning quarterback in the SEC. I'm sure there's debate about that, but he's going to be on the all-SEC team, whether he's first, second, or third. This is what you want to build around. Jaden Daniels back and probably better in year 2 in the system. You know what?
Oh, again, full offseason, no question, QB1. I think that's important. I mean, I think a Hooker, coming into the season last year didn't have that job. And the transformation that he made in the offseason, learning Heupel's system, I expect the same from Daniels and Kelly. I expect him. I mean, now you got Booty back. You got. I mean, things are really looking up for damn LSU, ain't they?
Yeah.
Dark horse favorite in the West. Put it in your book early.
And kind of the opposite of what we were saying with Georgia, Shane. They locked down 7 of the top 13 in-state prospects. And they probably would have done a lot more if he had more time with them. They landed 3 of the top 15 offensive tackles. Massive for the offensive line. 2 of the top 13 receivers. And then here they go to the portal, Shane. They grab a receiver from Alabama that was the number 1 Louisiana prospect last year, and 3 defensive linemen to shore up their deficiencies via the transfer portal. So, I mean, just a hell of a weekend for LSU.
Man, no wonder he's in such a good damn mood.
So next we got Tennessee, Shane. Again, 5-star quarterback Nico. I'm not even going to attempt his last name there, but he's the jewel of the class. Future of the program if he pans out. But I think more importantly for Tennessee, Shane, well, not more importantly, but just for this actual program rebuild, number 4 defensive lineman, number 10 edge defender, number 12 linebacker, number 13 linebacker, and according to Josh Heupel, all these corners we got in here, my God, they're in practice already, and they're looking like the best players on the damn roster.
They're starting on the bowl game, I heard.
Let's kick it over to them.
Coach, you bringing in 3 cornerbacks in Matthews, Gibson, and Conyer. What do you like about those guys? What do you think they can do? And I guess even getting probably far ahead, what chance do you think they have of contributing early for you guys?
Yeah, for all of our secondary guys that we brought in, all 5 of them here on campus competing already from day 1 that they stepped on the practice field. Without intentionally trying to watch them, like they would pop out. You notice their athleticism, their ability to play balls, to be in great body position. They're going to continue to grow fundamentally, but as a skill guy coming in on the defense side of the ball, their ability to blend right into what we're doing has been really impressive from all of those guys. You look at the corner position for us this year, the injuries that we've had, the lack of depth, be important for all those guys to learn quickly and be ready to go compete by the time we hit the grass in spring ball.
But yeah, Shane, so they got Jordan Matthews, the number one corner out of Louisiana, Christian Conyer, the number one corner out of Kentucky, and
I will say that's a tough name.
Ricky Gibson, number 3 corner from Alabama. So they went all around the country to get these guys.
That Jordan Matthews, that's going to be a tough one. He may need to come up with a nickname or something. That's too much. Reminds me too much of Bad Days at Vanderbilt, So, this is big, man. This is a huge recruiting class for us. One of our biggest problems we've had is defense and depth in defense. And one thing you learn, some of these coaches get to talking about, and I think it's a good point, is sometimes your competitive depth are freshmen. And so you've got to have a good recruiting class to have that competitive depth out there. So, this was a big class for us for sure.
And one other name to know, Shane, remember this name, Cam Seldon. Compare him to old Debo Samuel. Little Swiss Army knife there, can play multiple positions. It'll be fascinating to see how Josh Heupel utilizes him in that offense.
Absolutely. And how many times did they form? I mean, everybody wanted to just know about Nico. It felt like at this thing, but there's a lot of great talent that Heupel pulled in on this recruiting class. And obviously quarterbacks are what wins championships, but you got to build some pieces around them. That's what left us short this year, is those pieces around Hooker.
Right. Now, how about Florida, Shane? 20 signees, 18 of them 4 stars. Again, my God. This is, if you're not going to have number 1 class, this is about as good as you can get, because you got elite across the board. And kind of like you're saying, this is basically your backups and starters across the board. We got 4-star Jaden Rashada. He was the biggest, kind of the crown jewel of the class. We need help at quarterback. Brought in 2 of the top 20 receivers in the country, the number 7 safety. And how about this, Shane? They really needed to rebuild the defensive line.
Yeah.
They got 5 defensive linemen that rank inside the top 40 in the country. And then they added also a little experience here, Shane. Wisconsin transfer quarterback Graham Mertz, who I believe was a 5-star prospect, hasn't quite lived up to that billing, but it's good to bring in a talented guy that could be your, he could be your day 1 starter, or not, if not that, he's the future of the program. And then you bring in a guy that started for 3 years at the Power 5 level to kind of bridge that gap. That's exactly what they need down there in Gainesville.
Absolutely, man. And you talk about building pipeline within your own state. That's what Billy did too. And I think that's the important notes here is dude, if you can recruit Florida, and you can win championships. Old school NCAA, you wanted to get into Texas or Florida or Georgia, it's like you could protect Florida and keep those in-state recruits coming to your school, build a huge relationship with the IMG Academy, and that's what you want. And I feel like this team instantly got better, got faster, got bigger, and this is what Billy wants to do down there.
Yep. All right, next, Texas A&M, Shane. Again, mentioned it before, 5-star running back Reuben Owens, number 2 running back in the country. That's huge. And how about, Jimbo's got him a spatula, Shane, because they're flipping guys left and right. 4-star receiver from Arkansas, they flipped Micah Tease. 4-star tight end from Stanford, Jaden Platt. 4-star quarterback from Ole Miss, Marcel Reed. And Temple, 3-star linebacker Terrion York. Man, that's masterful work there on signing day. You know what?
Yeah, no, that's what they needed, man. You got the giveth and taketh of the portal,
And speaking of that, also, Shane, the portal, they landed North Carolina starting corner Tony Grimes, was a 5-star prospect, multiple years of starting at North Carolina. But the way Jimbo tells it, Shane, this damn portal's going to be the end of us all.
in this world of NIL and transfers, just the culture, getting guys that want to be Aggies? How important was that?
Well, I don't know if that guys want to be Aggie, but guys want to play. At the end of the day, you can get caught up in Aggies and whatever you want, and you can get caught up in whether you want to go to Alabama, you want to get caught up and go like they had 22 last year, and they've had a bunch of guys leave, and I use them. I mean, everybody's had guys leave across the board. It's about kids playing nowadays. They want to be here, but do they want to play and they want to produce? And if they're early in their careers, and I think that's one of the things that hit us. You had such a young group of guys that were that played so much that it affected older guys on your team. When you get behind the depth chart sometimes on guys like that, it's going to affect that. And that's something that we're going to have to deal with continually throughout recruiting, not this year, but forever as you go into this thing and who you bring in and what goes on. That's always going to be, every year it's going to be ever-changing. This is a whole new world and a whole new entity of recruiting that we've never been around or dealt with, and it's ever-changing, constantly, on any of it.
And you spoke some about the changes of everything, and I know that we've asked you these questions throughout the year, but, I mean, overall, did you ever picture things going this way as far as transfer portals, NIL, things like that?
You mean in college football?
Yes, sir.
I knew eventually pay for play. I didn't know if it NIL like it came about. And like I say, the problem with all of it is there's no consistency in rules. And then when you get into the portal, there's so much tampering going on. It's utterly ridiculous. I mean, it's a joke. It's an absolute joke in ruining college football. And like I heard, I was the coach at UTSA the other day. I think he was. I mean, those guys there, and all of a sudden everybody's robbing their players and taking their. I mean, using them. I mean, that level of players. I mean, this is not good for college football as far as how it's done. I'm not saying being able to transfer is not bad. I'm not saying paying players is not bad. But the current rules and status of how it's done, the way it's done, is ridiculous. I mean, but it is here. So everybody's got the same issues. Everybody's got the same problems, and the ones that keep pushing the rules and breaking them will get rewarded, and the other ones, you've got to keep fighting, scratching, and clawing to do things the right way, but you can do it that way and win. Always have.
Coach, go back. And then in regards to the new OC, when will you make a decision on if you call the play still or if the new OC calls the plays?
We'll wait and see what goes in. Hopefully they will, so I can diverse. And there's a lot of things going on now in college football that the head coach, my job has changed so much in the last 2 years, it's ridiculous. Probably more so as head coaches, things you got to deal with away from ball more in the last 2 years than it's ever been in college football, maybe ever, because of all the things that go on and the circumstances because of the new things that go on. So we'll see when we get them in here.
Go back behind the lights on the left side, Daryl.
All right, how about it, Shane? I mean, my God, he's mad at NIL. He's mad at the portal. I feel like these comments not going to sit well with you, brother.
No, and maybe this is the first coach I listened to because I just had a feeling. I don't know what it was. I was like, Jimbo just does not seem settled. He doesn't seem happy. Let's see what he says today on National Signing Day. I'll be honest with you, Mike. I think this is a loss. You were talking about wins and losses. Mm-hmm. I expect Texas A&M to be top 3, top 4 in the SEC. And I know 6 isn't that bad, but that's because of the product they put on the field, in my opinion, this following season. And so now to come out and just whine like this, I just don't because you're more in the portal than anybody. Not anybody, but you know what I'm saying. The NIL, first thing I think of is Texas A&M. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's just funny that Lane Kiffin's out here quote tweeting you after you make these dumb comments because every coach in the SEC knows that this is where the money's at. So I think this is dumb. This is just something that we don't need right now. Celebrate what you got. Celebrate what you accomplished. Put the players up on a pedestal for a minute, mm-hmm. and then get in the portal and get dirty with the rest of them because they're all in there, man.
Yeah. All right, next on the docket, Shane, South Carolina, you got 3 of the top 4 in-state prospects. Love to see that. South Carolina always seems to dominate in-state. Guess old Dabo don't care about the local kids anymore.
No. But he's got his own NIL,
They signed 3 4-star offensive linemen. That's huge. Offensive lineman was a critical position they needed to attack. Tons of linebackers, some defensive linemen, some defensive backs. And how about it, Shane? The way Beamer tells it, 4-star linebacker Grayson Howard, called Pup. He'd die for these Gamecocks.
Coming out
Today been a pretty amazing day, to say the least. Pretty good for a program that some said had lost a lot of momentum after the Clemson game. So rumors of our demise were greatly exaggerated, to say the least.
And I'm sure we can ask questions about them specifically later. But Grayson Howard, the high school level guys, seem to be like your kind of quarterback, like for lack of a better way to describe his personality.
Yes.
Can you speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, Grayson Howard is unbelievable. When I told you guys last week about a text message that I got from a recruit saying we want people in this program that will die for this university, that was Pup as well. And he's unbelievable. And just his personality, obviously his ability as a player speaks for itself, but when you get to know him, like, you guys are going to love him as you get to know him also. I mean, he's just got a great personality. He's so positive all the time, competitive, mature, businesslike. I mean, we were in his house a couple Sundays ago and just so impressed with him the more and more I'm around him, and he did a great job of recruiting these other guys. And he was certainly a guy that we had a lot of guys that got this class going, Hale, but just the momentum that he created, because he is such a national recruit and he turned down so many great programs to come here, was a huge pickup for us. And he's going to make our program better from day one. In fact, he's already here right now. Like, he's able to practice with us this week because of, I don't even know exactly what the rule is, but because of what he's been able to get done in school already, and then what he was able to get done with the admissions process and everything here, he's cleared and good to go. So he actually practiced with us yesterday and practiced with us today, which tells you everything you need to know about the guy. Like, most kids would be at home, like, celebrating signing day and having parties and all that. He wanted to come up here and practice. So he's awesome.
Man, Beamer, I love Beamer with an attitude too. You know what I mean? He's calling people out, doom and gloom. Just signed one of the best classes in recent history. Man, it's all, like you said, it's all about that momentum down there. You know what?
Yeah, and he listens, man. He listens. He reads articles. I'm waiting for him to see me at media days and say, "You fat bastard, on episode 48, you didn't give us a shot." And look, so no, I love that, man. I mean, he is South Carolina, brother. Guys, you got to coach for life. And if this thing works out, he'll be just like his dad at Virginia Tech. He'll stay there, and he's going to win a lot of games for you. So I wish him nothing but the best. But you could just tell there's some coaches that are fully invested. Beamer is all about South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. Now, Auburn, Shane, we mentioned it, all these flips. 4-star defensive lineman Keldrick Falk from Florida State. That's our highest-rated commit. He was a flip. 4-star cornerback Kalen Lee flipped him from Ohio State. They're the third highest rated commit. 4-star safety Sylvester Smith. Sorry, Shane. Flipped from Tennessee. Their fourth highest commit. And they flipped an offensive lineman from Ole Miss. We said Auburn is kind of a train wreck on the offense and defensive line. They signed 3 4-star defensive linemen. They signed 5 offensive linemen. Hugh Freeze and company, quick work in the trenches. They also added a transfer, Elijah McAllister from Vanderbilt, 2-time team captain, and tight end Rivaldo Fairweather from FIU. They need help down there at Auburn. They're getting it quickly here under old Hugh Freeze.
Well, him and Sylvester can just have all the fun they want, Mike. No, I'm giving a hard time. I think this again was monumental. This is the first class of many that Hugh's going to be a part of down there. And you know, when I think of Hugh Freeze, I always go back to that number 1 class they put together at Ole Miss, and I'm just thinking, you know, you give him all the time, you give him all the pieces, you know, there's real opportunity to build something special down there, and for what he's already brought to the play, I think that's fantastic.
Yeah. Now, next, Mississippi State, Shane, remember, Zach Arnett, he's our head coach now. He literally hadn't even had a press conference because they ain't got time, Shane, with all recruiting and transfers. And, heck, we got a bowl game coming up here. So this is the first time he's met with the media as Mississippi State's head coach. They held on to every single commit aside from one. That's just incredible. And right out the gate, Shane pays homage to Mike Leach. No opening comments. I love that. And he says exactly, this is something all coaches say, but you got to come out here and say it, and you got to go out here and show it. The state of Mississippi will be a priority. Let's kick it over to Zach Arnett.
Not from Mississippi, but in my 3 short years, I take tremendous pride in the quality of football player that is developed in the high schools in this state and the junior college level. And, particularly being a defensive guy, the defensive talent that obviously is known about and has flourished from this state. If we are not recruiting this state before any other and putting more effort into evaluating the young men in this state and then recruiting them and signing them, then we're making a mistake, and they ought to find a new coaching staff, because that is going to be #1 priority every year.
I know you've been balancing a lot of things this week, but in terms of this bowl game, have you made any decisions in terms of play calling, how that's all going to be handled on both sides of the ball?
Yeah, obviously my intention is still call it on defense, and so, like you said, I've been balancing a lot of things. I probably need to watch a little bit more film, and then Coach Spurrier will call it on offense. That's the plan that was in place, I think, for the last 3 years. If for any reason, right? You always have to have a plan in place. If I went down or was kicked out of a game or something, right, for arguing with refs, you got to have someone ready to go. And so there's already a plan in place. Coach Spurrier is going to call it on offense.
What has it meant for you to get the opportunity from Mississippi State to be the next head coach here, and how much of your experience at this point and what you've learned do you credit to Coach Long and Coach Leach?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I can't even begin to put in words how this university has changed the lives of myself and my family, and so I will forever be indebted to this institution for the opportunities it's given me. I also realize now that I think it's 13, maybe 14 years now between working for Coach Long and then working for Coach Leach. The wisdom that those men possess and the opportunity for a young coach to spend time under them and just observe and listen, those lessons will stay with me for the rest of my life, not only professionally as a coach, but also personally. And I hope to be half the leader that those guys have been throughout their career.
And he doesn't just say it, Shane. I believe 2/3 of their class, Mississippi prospects, including the big one there on signing day, Isaac Smith, the 4-star All-American, picked Mississippi State over LSU, Ole Miss, and Texas A&M. Just a remarkable job. They added a 4-star quarterback, 4-star receiver, 4-star offensive tackle. I'm damn glad and proud of Zach Arnett if I'm a Mississippi State fan. You know what?
Oh, yeah. You're gonna start recognizing him real soon. Now, it's not like the Pirate. You see him in, the grocery store. You can pick him out. Right now, Zach, he can fly under the radar. He can still eat at Applebee's and not come up and somebody get an autograph. You know what I'm saying? They're just saying, oh, that guy works out, But I'm telling you, brother, it's going to change, and it's going to change by recruiting the state of Mississippi, man.
Yeah.
Just protect those borders, man. Lane don't want to recruit there, fine. Don't let them. Take the whole state to yourself, and you will win a lot of ball games. And I'm not saying Lane doesn't do that. Calm down, Ole Miss fans. But I'm just saying Mississippi State, this is their bread and butter right here. Keep doing that, and a full season of that. I think Zach and company are going to be in good shape. So, yeah, huge class here, man. I mean, they really could have lost all of them. They could have lost. I could see that happening. The staff stepped in. They did the right thing. They hired from within, and that kept the continuity. And this program will not. I mean, obviously, losing somebody like the Pirate is going to have its effect. But switching coaches, switching staffs, I mean, that could have just been detrimental for this program for many years.
Right, and I jumped on his Twitter, Shane, because I want to see how active this guy is compared to Lane Kiffin.
Yeah.
Hadn't sent out a damn tweet in 10 months.
Oh.
This is the exact opposite of Lane Kiffin. And, hey, that's probably, if you're a State fan, you love it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he lives, eats, breathes, all that. Just college football, man. He ain't got time for Twitter.
Nope. All right, Shane, Arkansas fans, again, some of them disappointed. We lost a couple prospects. I get it. That's never a great going into a signing day. This is the highest rated Arkansas signing class since 2011. And we're sitting here moping and saying, oh, man, this guy decommitted, oh, yada, yada, yada. Again, this speaks, Shane, to the rise under Sam Pittman, where I realize on the field this year, it was not what any of us expected. But 2 years ago, you would have been throwing a damn parade for this 6-6 record. That gives you an indication of the raised expectations, and it's only because they've won so many damn games that, hey, again, I know this ain't going to cut it, but best class since 2011, that's something to be recognized there in Fayetteville. You know what?
Absolutely, man. And listening to Sam, he ain't mad. You know, I think he's excited about this damn class.
Yeah.
And rightfully so. And I think that's part of the problem is the SEC killed it, man. Mm-hmm. I mean, there's not one team that's ranked worse than 50th in this recruiting class. The SEC as a whole did so well that when you look at this class, you're like, oh, man, you know, Arkansas had a year off or a bad year. Mm-hmm. You removed this class and put them in 3 years ago. You're like, oh, man, Arkansas's on their way back, you know. So I think this is a good class for again, losing Odom was not easy, and that created, I think, a couple of lost relationships here, but you know, they're repairing that, and that's what you got to have at Arkansas. Your coach, you want your coaches poached. You know, losing coaches means you're doing something good there. So I'm not worried about that, and I think they got him a hell of a class. And listening to Sam, I could listen to him all day long. He is very happy with these boys.
Yeah, they're going to hit the portal, and I thought this was interesting, Shane, the way just kind of. You know, you don't think about this, but how these coaches are forced to build their rosters now. He says basically the freshmen, they're our backups now, and that's just the way it is. So let's kick it over to him.
This morning, for us to do what we've done in this class and be, you know, I think in Rivals is the highest class since 2009, and be in the top 25 and all that with the coaches, with what's going on right now. I'm real pleased with where we are, and I'm really ready to attack this portal. I'm ready to attack it. We know exactly what we need to change our football team. Arkansas has a wonderful name out there, and we have scholarships available. And so we're going to attack that part of it and hopefully get more than, I think we have 16 that's going to be here in January, and it could be as many as 26 or so come in for the team for spring ball. And I'm really excited about that. But yeah, it's really, I think everybody's going through the same thing. But it's been a lot of stuff going on.
The current state of college recruiting, and you say, well, I like our frontline guys, but we need depth. Is that going to be a yearly thing because of the portal?
Yeah. You know, if you think about it, let's think about it real quick. Okay. If you have the portal and it's open and you can go wherever you want, whenever you want to, and someone can pay you to go. Okay. Where's your depth going to? Well, if you really look at it, if you're not a starter, your depth is coming from your freshman class. I mean, that's where it's coming from. It's amazing now because an older guy that's not starting, he believes he can leave your school and start somewhere else, you know. And so I think the depth of teams is going to change a little bit because, again, if you've got a 2-3 year player listen, I don't want to say this with all of them because there's a lot of them that stay and continue to work and all that. But if you got a second, third year player that's not starting, someone is convincing him at another school that he's going to come and be the best sliced bread at their place. And so he's going to transfer. And so I think the better we do in high school recruiting, I think the least problems we'll have. But I'm not really, I said problem, I'm not really looking at this as a problem. We have some scholarships available to go change our team, and that's what we're going to do.
All right, Shay, next on the docket, Ole Miss, Lane Kiffin. Man, you say Sam Pittman's not sad. Kiffin seemed a little sad. I'm not lying here. Yeah, a little bit down. You know, he's not always the most gregarious during these press conferences, but he certainly wasn't this one. Lost his quarterback, but he did sign 3 of the top 5 in-state prospects, so they're doing something right there. And I like the fact that he throws a little shade here towards his quarterback. It's not always what it seems, is what he says. And then gives a little update here on Zach Evans, who sounds like he could be back for another year, which, hell, I think I'd rather have Zach Evans than some
for sure
high school running back you never heard of that may not even make the team. You know what?
Full court press on that recruit, you know?
Obviously, losing the quarterback in this class a few days ago, just kind of moving forward. You say y'all are still working in the portal. What's kind of your strategy to maybe try to get a quarterback with this class when it's all said and done?
Well, I mean, things aren't always what they appear to be, so I wouldn't say we lost a quarterback. So, but it is what it is. Again, because of the portal and because of it being so different and people with 1 year of eligibility to 4 years of eligibility going in it, that even walking down here, going over this and stuff, it's just kind of a weird press conference to have because it's so incomplete compared to what this will look like when we start spring ball, let alone camp, as we've seen, because nowadays you've seen guys in the summer still transferring in a million places. So we do have some quarterback depth issues to work on. I think that in general, there's depth issues around the country and everywhere because you got all these kids going in the portal. Whatever it was, 1 out of 9 now kids are in the portal. So a lot of work to do at a number of positions, but especially at quarterback.
You mentioned it, but keeping the top Mississippi players in the state, you guys right now have, I think, 3 of the top 5 players in the state. Just how important is it for this program to win those battles for the in-state players?
I think really big, which is obvious. Something that didn't necessarily happen when we first got here. They were going away to play, and so I think we did a better job of that. We need to continue to do that, and as guys come in and have success here, that'll help that.
Has Zach Evans given you any indication what he's going to do next year? Is that why you tried to get Ruscano as well?
He has not. He is still figuring that out. We have talked, and he's still weighing his options.
All right, last but not least here, Shane, Mark Stoops, kind of the highlight here. I just thought of the whole thing. Talks up Devin Leary, their new quarterback, says literally anybody and everybody that needed a quarterback tried to get this guy, and he signed with us. Let's kick it over to Mark Stoops talking their new quarterback, Devin Leary.
The transfer, and really headlined by Devin Leary. A guy that was highly sought after. Anybody that was in the quarterback market, and I mean anybody and everybody that was in the quarterback market was after him. So we really feel like we hit a home run with him, and again, I've told you I feel confident with the quarterbacks that we have on campus, but this gives you a 1 year, transfer free agent, if you will, to come in for a year and really bridge that gap and let our guys continue to grow the quarterbacks that we have on campus. I'm excited to watch them play in this game. They really worked hard and are doing some good things, and I'm excited to watch them. But with Devin, it brings in a proven guy with a lot of snaps under his belt with the playmakers that we have in place. That's a really big get for us. Obviously, hit some areas of need.
Yes, I mean, I don't think this is, again, because of the calendar, Shane, because of everything going on, I don't think this is getting made to be as big of a deal as it should be.
Mm-hmm.
But my God, Shane, I mean, Kentucky, we've been guilty in the past, hyping them up, but this could be the signing of the offseason. I mean, this could legitimately make them a contender in the East Not just Devin Leary, but the offensive coordinator, the running back, the offensive line. I mean, this could be a 180 on this offense overnight. And this got to make Kentucky fans thrilled.
Yeah, I would take Leary out with me as we're going to these offensive linemen saying, guys, we've got it here. We just need a little time, a little protection back here.
Yeah.
So I think, man, I've not met one upset Wildcat fan out there this week. You know what I'm saying? They have been on cloud nine, and rightfully so. And this recruiting class isn't to discourage them. This is just a part of the pieces that they got to put together to have another good run next year. Because, again, forget what this championship or this trophy for recruiting comes with. Next year, they're going to be putting them higher up because of all the things they got in the transfer portal.
Right. Now, Shane, again, this speaks to how crazy things are right now, but Missouri, they got a bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
Drink is not even in Missouri. He's down here in Florida getting ready for this game. Can't, welcome these kids to campus because they got a game tomorrow. Missouri, not only that, Shane, but they were going head-to-head against Wake Forest for a commit. Here's Eli Drakowitz saying, it was tough not to say anything because they didn't know it was coming, but I sure as hell did.
Coach, is there a different level of satisfaction when you can flip a recruit as opposed to just regularly, getting them yourselves? And kind of a second part to that, is there a different level of satisfaction from flipping that recruit when they're a conference opponent that you will play or a bowl game opponent?
Man, it's kind of a funny question because we kind of had an idea that this was going to go our way during the coaches' social that we had Monday night, and for all of us to keep a straight face and not let that one kind of slip out was a little bit difficult. But in recruiting, it's kind of fun. It's kind of fun. I don't rub it in as probably as much as I'd like to, but it's kind of fun when you beat people who think they got you.
All right, Shane. So, hey, Missouri starts 1-0 against Wake Forest this week. Hopefully, they start 2-0 or finish 2-0 against Wake Forest here in the Gasparilla Bowl. Friday, December 23rd, 6:30 Eastern, 5:30 Central on ESPN. Wake Forest, favored by 3. What? Wake Forest 7-5 on the season, Shane. 3-5 in the ACC. Is that still a conference? I didn't even realize that till right now. These two have never met, Shane, which is kind of unbelievable. But I'll tell you what, Wake Forest does have a hell of a quarterback, Sam Hartman, Shane. 107 passing touchdowns in his career, more than any active FBS player. But check this out. Wake Forest lost 4 of their last 5 games, Shane. They lost to Louisville, to NC State, to North Carolina, to Duke. And what did Missouri do? They won 4 of their last 6, including being the only team in the country that played within 1 score to Georgia. So we're going one of the coldest teams in the country, one of the hottest teams in the country. I mean, I don't even have to ask you, who do you like in a ball game?
I tell you what, the best thing that can happen to Wake Forest is enjoying that beautiful weather down there in Florida, because they ain't carrying any type of trophies on the way back. I'm telling you right now, man. Mizzou is fired up, brother. They've been, like you said, it's how they close the season. And Mizzou had a lot of close games throughout this year and that they'd love to have back, and I think they're playing in a better bowl game. And I think that plays favors for Mizzou, and it plays against what Wake Forest has. I guarantee you, if Wake Forest and Vanderbilt play today, Vanderbilt's winning that game, brother.
Yeah.
They are not that good. And I expect total domination here, mainly on the defensive side of the ball, something that's been carrying them here late at the end of the season. So, without further ado, because I'm not going to drag this ass beating out any further, give me the Mizzou Tigers 35, the Deacons 14. Oh yeah, I think this is going to be actually a fun game, brother.
Yeah.
I think it's a little bit of a preview of what we're going to have next season. All those practices, getting some of them people healthy too. That's one of the things that was really hurting Missouri was that competitive depth. When that defense stayed on the field a little longer than they should, it really had its toll there toward the end. So I expect some of that to be corrected here, and it's just a quick reminder of just how good the SEC is.
Right. And one thing that another thing that is being overlooked, I think, in SEC circles, national circles, Shane, Missouri's two outstanding corners, Chris Abrams-Drain and Enos Rakestraw, they have announced they're coming back next season to anchor this secondary. We're talking elite level corners. This is going to be the matchup of the bowl game. Quarterback Sam Hartman against Rakestraw and Abrams-Drain. Cannot wait to see this matchup. But don't forget Tyron Hopper, Shane, one of the best linebackers in the SEC. Don't forget Luther Burden, one of the best freshmen in the country. Now,
best chips I ever had. Get up there and get you a bag.
Now he's got extra that practices, getting to hit the reset, refresh his body. I think this is a breakout game for Luther Burden. Brady Cook was heating up at the tail end of the season, played his best football against Arkansas, that big win. And look at some of these efficiency numbers for Wake Forest, Shane. Number 105 in rushing offense in the country. Number 105 in passing defense in the country. They may lose this damn game by 105, Shane. Get the hell out of here with this. I think this game means a hell of a lot more to Missouri than it does Wake Forest. Getting to a winning record, of finishing the season on a high note after last season's just brutal bowl loss. If you remember that one, Shane, they took the lead. They gave it up in the closing seconds of that game. Give me Mizzou 30, Wake Forest 27. So I think it's close. I think you were right. I don't think you're right on the blowout, but I think you were right on this being a fun back and forth game. But I like them Tigers to get one for the SEC.
I'm going to take the over. I just think he's going to have a big game.
Yeah.
I think, he wants to win this job, man. This is the icing on the cake. This is the kickoff. We don't want question marks coming in the offseason. To avoid that, you come out here, you dominate. So I expect a big game from Cook here. Fun. It's good to see some SEC action again. It seems like it's been a while. So I am ready for some football, ready for the holidays, Mike. I don't know about you, but I hope everybody got their presents this year on their recruiting class that they wanted. If not, hey, there's always the portal, baby.
Yeah,
the old gift exchange, we like to call it.
I'm not sure how the schedule will go next week. I know Stephen Lasson will be joining us, but with the holidays, be a little hectic. But we got a big time matchups coming up, Shane. I mean, we got these New Year's Six Bowls. We got, obviously, the playoff coming a week from Saturday. So we'll have you covered on all of that. But before we close it out here for the week, Shane, just want to wish you and all the listeners Merry Christmas. Like Shane said, hope you get everything you want and everything you deserve, even those of you like me that don't deserve. Hope you get something good here. But, hey, I think that's a great note to go out on, Shane. Everyone be safe. It sounds like it's going to be pretty hectic out there with the weather and everything. I know we were joking about that, but, just be careful out there. You know what?
Yeah, man. They said it's going to be feels like -4 out here tonight. So it's going to be brisk. It's going to be chilly. And this is the last time. Of course, Mike, I'll probably be texting you a little bit closer to Christmas. But I love you, man. Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas to all the listeners out there. And again, this is last time I see you till after Christmas. So Merry Christmas, brother. Love you. Love all the listeners. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you're listening, I hope, like I said earlier, you landed the recruiting class that you wanted. I hope you got all the presents you need. But love on that family. We only get so many trips around the sun. I say that a lot because this is important. If you got some family that you haven't reached out to them, and you'd be surprised how much a simple conversation, a simple phone call would mean to them. So that's my PSA right there. And until I see you guys after Christmas, go Vols.